Good evening, everybody. How's it going? It's me, Comic Crack, and it is time. What's going on here today? It's time because it's time. It's Sunday. No chat this afternoon. Had a family dinner this evening, and hopefully next weekend we're back. Rasa and I back for another conversation. In the afternoon, probably be on my channel. There was somebody who asked in the comments of, I think, last week's video, or a recent video anyway, about LaRosa's channel. So I'm going to try to do my best to remember to continue to put the link to her channel in the description of these Sunday wrap videos. I have actually grown a couple of subscribers, and I can only imagine that I have For the Love of Comics to thank for that. The conversation I had with him over on his channel, not an incredible insurgent force of people subscribing, but a few anyway. So I appreciate all the new subscribers and people hanging out. What do we got this week? I was looking to Hello 420. I was looking to show you just a share video with you that you should check out. Shama Sawant, somebody that I've talked about before on the channel, someone who I have great admiration and respect for, a very fiery pro-union politician, amazing speaker, just really an incredible person to listen to. Has a lot of fantastic ideas, has the energy, has the tenacity, has the bravery, and is just kind of completely badass. She kind of went viral recently when she talked at a Jill Stein campaign. It was Workers Strike Back as her organization, and then she was speaking about getting people, progressive specifically, to vote Jill Stein with the sole purpose of ensuring that Kamala Harris does not get the votes, knowing full well that Jill Stein cannot win. The point is to send a very strong message that Kamala Harris will not win. It was a really great clip. People lost their shit over it, claiming that she was saying the quiet part out loud, which just isn't the case. That's the part that you're supposed to know, kind of thing. It's not that it's some ulterior motive that is somehow unspoken. I think people who vote third party are very well aware of what it is that they're quote unquote doing or who they're voting for. For me personally, again, I've talked about this before. We have a third party here in Canada, the NDPs. I would argue that they're not much of a third party anymore, but that's a whole separate conversation. At one time in history, they rose up as an alternative to our two main parties. They were very labor forward. They were very labor friendly. They were pro-union. I personally think they've moved quite a bit away from that over the years, but that's, again, just my opinion. But I always supported them growing up, ever since I started voting, and I would always hear similar things. What's the point? Why are you wasting your vote? Why are they don't stand a chance to gain power federally? So why are you wasting your vote? And I never understood that mentality. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't a waste of a vote. I have the ability to vote. They were talking about things that appealed to me. I voted for the party that I wanted to see in office. We're in a little bit of a different situation here in Manitoba. We're not the only province, but we have had our back and forth generally is between the NDPs and the Conservatives here in this province. So we have had the NDP party. They're currently in power here provincially. They have yet to ever win federally. At this point, they're kind of side piece to the Liberal Party. Anyway, I don't want to get too deep into that. I guess the point for me is voting third party. There's things that you know are going to happen within that. but that shouldn't stop you. Oh, I was scrolling on a screen that I wasn't sharing. Here's what I was trying. Here's what I was scrolling as I was talking. This is Shama Sawant. So sorry, focusing. The point of this was I wanted to talk to you about a video that she gave that speech. I went looking for it today. It's gone from YouTube. I couldn't find it, that speech, and I find that puzzling. I found a couple of videos from other channels where they talk about that speech, but I can't actually find the speech itself anymore. That could be my searching. I'm not saying it got pulled necessarily. It seems to me that it's been pulled off of YouTube. I find that bizarre, but the fact remains that I can't find it. It really burned people's ass, though. It really chapped people's ass. Jill Stein really chaps people's ass. And I just don't kind of understand. I do understand, but I don't understand. Listen to some Shama Sawant, KSHAMA, and then SAWANT. I believe Workers Strike Back is her organization. Let's see, is that what the YouTube channel is called too? The YouTube channel is called On Strike, but then there's also a Worker Strike Back. So the channel On Strike we've spoken about before, really worth subscribing to as well, and kind of paying attention and listening to videos. They don't do a ton of stuff. Looks like they do kind of a video a week-ish. So well worth your time, I think. Lots of interviews, lots of thoughts on things, lots of just great conversations. Sorry, that was a little rambly all over the place. Donald Rex, hello, how you doing? And then for our music this week, I wanted to draw your attention to this. My son played it on our radio show. If you're familiar with the band Black Midi, I guess they've broken up. And Jordy Greep, who was the guitarist slash vocalist, I don't know if he was the sole writer. I don't know if he wrote the majority of the songs or not. I'm not as up to speed on that band specifically. But my son played something from his brand new album that just came out called The New Sound. So last night we heard the song Blues, which you're seeing here. Fantastic track. He's on tour. Where were those tour dates? Nottingham, United Kingdom, United States. That's some older. Oh, maybe that's going into the new year. Okay, so October 30th and then into January. So this is a fantastic tune. I haven't listened to the whole album yet, but I do really like some of the Black Midi stuff that I've heard. There was a period there where we were watching a lot of live performances with Black Midi. Once my son kind of first discovered them, we watched a lot of live performances, and I always thought it was really, really great. Rock, jazzy, prog rock, kind of math rock, whole bunch of really technical stuff, some interesting grooves. His vocals are very unique. Yeah, kind of one of those one-of-a-kind bands. I don't know the story behind why they broke up. I don't know any of that stuff, but thankfully he's still making music, and this is the cover to the new album. I think it's on Rough Trade Records, which will have a Bandcamp site, so you can check out stuff there. I'll try to put links to this stuff in the description of this video. Dan Elson, hello. One of my drum students just recommended Black Midi to me yesterday. I hadn't heard them. They're fantastic. The drummer from Black Midi is pretty goddamn incredible. Just do a search for some live performances. There's a couple where they're in kind of what looks like a small room in a house, or a room in a house. Those are really, really tight, really impressive stuff. And being a music fan that I know you are, Dan, I'm sure you'll get something out of it, and being a musician as you are as well, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. But that new track really blew me away from his solo album. So that's it for the music. Let's get into some books that I read this week. Not a ton of stuff. Some things we've talked about before that I won't have too much to say, and I guess we'll start there. I'll check them out, especially with your endorsement. Yeah, cool, man. Let me know what you think next weekend. Let me know what your thoughts are. One of the books that I got from the last My Comic Shop Lone Star haul was Night of the Living Dead. This is the, not the Prelude. Where is it? What did I do with it? Here we go. Sorry, wrong book. Aftermath. So there was the Prelude comic, which we've talked about in the past. Then there was the series itself on Fantico. I don't have all of the issues yet, but I've got a couple of them. I've read them all digitally. Really, really great. And then we got into, there was a one-shot Aftermath. And then we got into the London series, which I only have the one issue for. So I wanted to check out the Aftermath book, and it was just as good as I expected it to be. I think it does a really nice job of putting a button on what happened in the previous volume. The previous volume is pretty much the movie set in a comic. So they kind of take that jumping off point. They're now burning the corpses, starting to clean up their city, going around and shooting the rest of the walkers that are there, as this zombie plague has continued to kind of ravage the landscape. We get some incredible Carlos Castro art, and said it every time we look at this, that is the draw for me. The story itself is really great. The London story actually is really, really good. Clive Barker does the writing on that one. But it's the art in this that I think is really just beyond exceptional. And this one really captures that horror vibe. I also like that there's a lot of medium and tight shots. So you kind of feel like you're right in the midst and you're kind of being surrounded by the zombies. So it really does a good job of kind of putting you in that place. We get someone who gets bit. Where do we go here? So she gets in a car accident, a little bit of a dust up, jumps out of the car, and is then, of course, beset on by walkers and gets a chunk taken out of her neck. Doesn't think anything of it. Kind of carries on. She's heading to the airport to jump on a plane to guess where? England, of course. So, and that's where it sort of ends with her getting her ticket, and the inside back cover, we get her on the plane. So really nice job of kind of transitioning us from that first series into the second one. It was a real joy to read. I really want to get the other London book and then the missing issues. I think this is kind of one of those series I can heartily endorse here on the channel. If you ever come across this stuff, this is has a very, very high Comic Crack recommendation here, because it is just an incredible bit of work there. And like I said, that London book, there's so much going on in there. The beauty with zombie movies that are done really well is you can sort of have some really nice subtext. And in that London, there's some horrific imagery that looks like concentration camps, while royalty is kind of driving by on the street, really guarded and fenced off from the rest of the rabble on the streets. So well worth it. What do I have here? This is for... I read some Post Brothers, but maybe we'll go into this Trout. Another Lone Star Comics was the second issue of Troy Nixie's Trout 2-issue miniseries from Oni Press. There was also a Dark Horse miniseries as well. I've got the first one, but still haven't come across any of the others. Yeah, it's not easy to come by the Night of the Living Dead stuff, especially that early stuff. I really loved this book. This really had a kind of Neil Gaiman fairy tale kind of element to it. That was just a little darker, so almost Mignola-esque as well too, with Nixie's incredible work on here. one of the things that was bizarre to me, yeah, this is issue number 1. See if I can find a good example. Yeah, these are good examples. I don't know how well they're going to show up. He does this thing with the speech bubbles and the text where they're kind of transparent, so you can see the settings and you can see the art behind them. I think it happens through the whole book. Let me jump to issue 2 for a sec to see. Yeah, no, it happens through the whole book. So obviously a choice, an interesting one if you think of like dialogue and how it doesn't kind of clutter your surroundings. Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder what the thought was with doing something like that. Is that supposed to be kind of the volume? The first thing that pops to my head is kind of like the volume that the people are speaking on. They're not speaking in a way where it's interfering with the surroundings, so they're not yelling. I also like the way he does the musical notes kind of drifting through the little village as well. So the basic premise is a puppet show comes to town. We're introduced to a couple of characters right off the bat. One who's sort of he's the main game in town. He owns the factory in town that I think, does he make beet juice or something? Some sort of vegetable juice is what he does. And a lot of people work at his factory who live in this little village. He has a child that lives up in his house named Trout that there's only rumors about in the town itself. Nobody's ever seen him. We don't get much of the backstory of why he's there in this one. I don't know if there was anything before this. Like I said, I do know there was a mini series after this one, which I did have at one point, and then I traded it away stupidly. So I'm going to need to pick that up again. But so we get this puppet show coming in, and of course, there's ulterior, darker motives with these puppets. Turns out that the puppet show is kind of a front for this soul-sucking demon, of course, that loves to feast on the souls of children. So at nighttime, after they've seen the puppet performance, there's this song that plays that kind of puts all of the kids to sleep. So they all get taken home, and in the middle of the night, they're woken up by the music again, and they all start wandering blindly to the tent where the people who have come in for the puppet show are, and get their souls sucked out of them. Really entertaining story with that dark twist. Trout is the one that doesn't fall victim to this. He goes along with the music to see the puppeteers and the demon, but he's not able to have his soul sucked from him. So he's the only child that remains in the village at the end of the story. So it sort of has this dark ending, and him and his, I guess, father figured they got to get the hell out of there, because him being the only survivor of all these children is going to really make the town suspicious of them. But really great 2 issues, beautiful art, nice little story to keep you moving through it. Another solid read this week. I reread issue 1 as well because I haven't. It's been a long time since I read it, so. Let's see, Dan. My birthday was on Monday. Happy goddamn birthday. So I finally decided to order myself all 4 issues of Young Witches Volume 1 from Lone Star. Whoa. Probably the most I've ever spent on single issues. But I just said, what the hell? That's amazing. They had all 4 issues of Young Witches at Lone Star. That's amazing. Love Troy Nixie. There was some Trout that came before this from Dark Horse Presents. Beautiful. That's good to know. I have some Dark Horse Presents. I actually bought a couple of issues today in the 50-cent bin. I'll have to look into that. Thank you for that. So those can go there. So like I said, I did read some Post Brothers while we continue on with this kind of Lone Star haul. There was a missing issue for me in my run. Was it number 8 here? Disturb the Neighbors. I think it was number 8. Let's have a look inside. Yes, it was number 8. This issue. So number 8 was the issue, and then I read a couple more later on. Um, I'll talk about those in a second. They were kind of continuing from a multi-part Post Brothers story. I think like a 5 or 6 part one. This one was a standalone issue. This was a great reintroduction back to the Post Brothers world. It's nice to have a nice run in a row now. So I'm full on back into Post Brothers. Such a good issue. They are sent to capture this fish, the Post Brothers. So he also does a little fun little bit. Act 2 is how we start in the water. So we see how the fish has been captured. We don't have any context. We jump to Act 1 where we start. We get a little bit of that backstory. They've been hired by this demon, this entity, I guess, to capture this fish so the fish can lead this entity to its master, who is also this kind of dark, evil demon. And there's a little love tryst going on there. The Post Brothers don't know that. So this fish spends the whole time begging for his life. Hey guys, just let me go. I promise I won't tell anybody. That sort of thing. But there's some beautiful, we get some beautiful work. I love seeing cartoonists deal with snow. I really like that it forces them to play with white space or just empty space. And Howarth does an incredible fucking job of that in this one here. There's some really, really great panels, and I love how that one is kind of separated by the hill itself to divide that one square into 2 parts. Yeah, and then especially Howarth with his big, kind of bold and kind of sometimes heavily detailed style. The way he uses blacks on the page when he deals with creatures, especially, I think is really amazing. And this one has some stellar demons, gods, entities design. I love the design of this creature here. This is one that I could see being like 3-dimensional, like making a costume of that one. That would be a wild cosplay for the comic convention. A very obscure character, but I love the design of that one. And this whole book was just stellar. It really plays a lot with what he does so well in these books. Some of the design elements, the humor, the kind of absolute violence as they enlarge themselves to blow him the fuck away. And then we get some darker elements as well too, which he's also really good at, creating these beautiful textures for backgrounds and things. This was a very such a solid issue of Post Brothers. So this is Post Brothers number 8. So if you don't know the Post Brothers, you could jump in on this one and get a really, really nice look at what this book is about, and get a beautiful introduction to all sorts of styles of Howarth's art. So solid issue. And then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I had read up to number 12. I just had missed that one issue, but I wanted to continue reading with it previously before I filled in those gaps. Now that I was able to fill in the gaps, I kind of continued with number 13 and number 14. And these ones are kind of the last 2 parts of I think it was a 5-part story. The Shell Game, yeah, incident number 5, Caging the Beast. So their house gets destroyed, and they have their landlord that's coming down on them, and kind of a lot of other stuff. Like I can't remember everything that's happened within this one, but they were sent on some mission to get this egg. This egg contained yet another demon, an entity from another dimension that is now loose. So this one is kind of wrapping everything up, and here's the creature. It's attached itself to the side of some buildings there. So lots of dimensional shifts in this one as well, to alternate realities, and just kind of a story of a shitty landlord put in the Post Brothers world. This last issue also had a backup story that was really great. I don't know the artist. The artist is A. Ciara. and then the script is Matt Howarth. So about a Nirvana Gilla, a one-man band who Dan actually his concert is him playing one note for an hour. So basically a precursor to Sun, I guess. So he finds that his audiences aren't challenging enough for him, and he's feeling kind of not fulfilled as an artist. He feels these audiences that he's playing for don't understand him and aren't kind of giving him any pushback. So his manager says, hey, I got you a gig in Bugtown. So he's super excited to go to Bugtown, which of course is the home of the Post Brothers. And we are met with the final image. Nirvana Gila, and then Well, Impress Us. And there's some of the characters of Bugtown all packing and ready for a concert as he kind of looks a little shit scared. So yeah, really nice little short story. I was gifted a whole bunch of Howarth stuff some years back, much of it autographed, but no Post Brothers. I got to see if my shop can dig some up for me. Issue 8 looks great. Yeah, honestly, you can start. It's one of those books you really can start anywhere. I just wanted to start from the beginning. Yeah, I just love seeing an artist develop, especially over the course of a long series like the Post Brothers, 30-something issues or however it went. I'm really looking forward to kind of continuing this with Howarth here. That one goes there. So a trade paperback that I got somewhere recently. I don't actually remember where I picked it up. I'm sure I talked about it in a weekend video at some point. This is called They're Not Like Us, and it's an Image book from what year? 2015. So this is, it says volume 1. Eric Stephenson is the story. Simon Gain does the art. Jordi Belair does color. And then Phonographics is letters and design. The back of it sounded pretty great. Generation after generation, it's the same old SOS. There's no hope for the future because young people think only of themselves. They have no respect for authority. They think they know everything. They are arrogant. They are reckless. They want to tear the world apart. In a time full of possibilities, yet rife with disappointment, the youth are changing. They look the same, but they act different, think different, and have abilities we can only dream of. They're not like us. Sounded intriguing enough. I really loved the artwork. It was really appealing. What I didn't expect is that I would be reading a shitty X-Men book, because that's kind of what this read to me like. And I kind of didn't like this quite a fair bit. I just thought it was really trying at times to kind of listen to. One of the things that I'm just really not a fan of is kind of like teen angst in comics and that sort of thing done in this kind of way. It just, the characters don't appeal to me whatsoever. The only appeal to me about this one is these kids have these powers. They get together and live together because they now have decided that they're going to create their own world. Fuck all the rules. We're going to do when we want, what we want, when we want, and nobody's going to stop us because we can do it. So basically embracing these powers and using their powers for evil. So that little nugget of an idea was mildly appealing. It just didn't really go anywhere for me. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty shitty read, to be honest. So, but the art was pretty goddamn beautiful. The coloring was really nice. But yeah, I don't know if this ever continued from here. We do get left with a cliffhanger. But I don't know if this continued anywhere past this. I've never heard of it before. I'm glad I gave it a shot. It was cheap, but this will be going into the for sale or trade pile. 420, I don't know if you're still here. We had talked before about you had some Legend of Mother Sarah stuff, some collections, I think. I'm still extremely interested in trying to get those from you at some point. I found the first series, the first 8 issues from that first story. I guess there's 3 different stories three different parts to this story. So I found the first one, Legend of Mother Sarah. I think the next one is The Children of Mother Sarah, and then the third part is called Something Else. I couldn't resist. They were all there at once. They were really cheap. This was from Red River Books upstairs, I think last weekend. Man, oh man, did I like this book quite a bit. For the most part, I found it dragged a little bit at the end. One of the things that sometimes happens, especially when I started reading manga and stuff, is the pacing. It's one of those things that I do understand how people can not are not necessarily, they find it hard to get into some manga. This is one of those very rare times where I found the pacing did kind of affect me by the end. This easily could have been a 6-issue series, and I think it would have been a little tighter. It just kind of started treading some water in the end that while the whole story was really appealing, I found that kind of made it lag a little bit. So story is Katsuhiro Otomo, and then cover and art is Takumi Nagayasu. Got him aside, extra first trade paperback and second and third story arcs minus 2 or 3 issues. Oh, okay, sweet. First arc is the weakest, gets better in my opinion. Oh, that's really good to know because I enjoyed this for the most part. I thought it was a really good introduction to the world. We have kind of like this post-apocalyptic world. We're dealing with two factions that are wanting to have different things happen to the planet Earth. There's one group that thinks that we've had our chance, we fucked it up, we don't deserve another chance, and they go about trying to like sabotage. The idea is that they're going to set off some bombs to kind of change the Earth's rotation, to change the axis, to help kind of save the planet and make it habitable for humans again. Pretty cool little premise. The art is gorgeous. It's really, really good. I don't know if this artist worked with Otomo on some Akira stuff, but there's a lot of kind of Akira vibes to this as well too. Yeah, and it just kind of jumps. That's where it kind of just drops you off in this story. Pretty damn good. Like I said, it was a really quick read. I sat and read all 8 issues at once. It didn't take very long, but really enjoyable. And the thing that it did do, even though it did lag at the end, it made me interested in what's coming next. And so that's really good to hear that it gets better, that this is maybe the weaker of the 3 story arcs. That makes me want to read the rest of it even more so. Let's see. It's not in this issue. I think it's in this issue. There's just a couple of spreads in here that I thought were really well done. So she kind of meets some people. She's traveling with this guy who is kind of like a criminal / salesman, and he is constantly going around looking for stuff to kind of salvage and sell off to other people. So they hit this part of the planet where it's a prison. There's prisoners. It's like a prison camp or a prison colony, and they're being used as kind of slave labor to mine the planet. And Sarah gets taken down into kind of one of these mines by a girl that she meets. And one of the spreads here, I love this spread. Love the looks of this. So she finds this kind of oasis underground. Love that image, man. Sat and looked at that for quite a long time. Love all the detail and the formations in there. Really beautiful. And it just kind of springs off from there. Don't want to say too much of it. It's worth your time. It's worth hunting down, even if you just find it digitally to read. I think it's a pretty solid book so far. Some guy actually gifted me all the issues from all 3 Mother Sarah volumes, but still haven't gotten around to reading them. Good to get your opinion before I dig in. Yeah, no, for sure dig into that. So yeah, the whole series there. And then finally, for this week, I started digging into some of the Minara stuff. I started with this one, which is a collection of short stories. It's a collection of voyeuristic episodes which balance between the absurd and the fantastic, revealing once again Mila Manara's Baroque sensibility, wit, and eroticism. Inspired by images from Picasso to Fellini, Manara explores the underside of popular culture, film, television, music. Little escapes his satirical and irreverent line. Each story is tightly focused, a concentrated dose concocted to leave us with a grin, slightly twisted, of appreciation. This was great. There was a couple of stories that didn't do much for me, but when it hit pretty hard. I like the way he plays with storytelling in this one. I think the problem that I had with some of the stories that I didn't really like is, I've talked about it before, when it comes to kind of these kind of dream or fantastical kind of stories. There's a really fine line between having an appealing story or someone just telling you about a dream that they had the other day. We've all had dreams where things just kind of rapidly move from one scene to another. And I get that that's a dream. And I do understand that he's trying to present some of that in that way. I just find that that particular style of storytelling doesn't really appeal to me. Like I said, it really is like sitting and listening to someone telling you about their dreams. If it's your kids telling you about their dreams, that has a huge appeal to me personally. But hearing a full-grown adult talk about a weird dream that they had the other night just doesn't hold any interest. So there was a couple of stories that kind of had that vibe to it. Where it started getting appealing was with one of my favorite ones here. Where does it start? Yeah, it starts on this page here. At Charontia Atropos, I guess, is sort of the butchered title of it. A guy who is being tasked with making a movie that is basically going to be a snuff movie, and he's kind of preparing himself for it. And he goes to meet. He decides he wants to meet the actress the night before their shoot, so he can get to know her and kind of build up a relationship with her. So when the time comes that she's kind of presented on film and is dispatched, he has some more, she kind of trusts him and has some more control. Of course, in classic Twilight Zone fashion, that isn't the way that the story ends. I won't give you any spoiler, but it has a little bit of a twist. And it's not necessarily the twist that appealed to me. It was the entire journey, their relationship, and things that they kind of end up doing together. He's almost like along on a ride with her as she lives kind of her last night on Earth. And I liked that idea. And then when the twist happens, you kind of get what you get. And I thought it tied it up really nicely. But that's the kind of stuff that that I really enjoyed. This next one, Untitled, was really good too. Sort of a never-ending Mobius strip of a story here, where we kind of follow a character through this journey. Again, this very dreamlike journey, but not in the hacky kind of way that we were presented with before. And then The Last Tragic Day of Goribao and the Kalipigin Sisters was this the last story in the book? I think it was the last one. Really liked this one because it had some of that European, oh no, that wasn't the last one. The European kind of Manara sensuality in it. These characters kind of exploring their sexuality and kind of going on this journey together. Yeah, again, that kind of fantastical, they're going from one place to another and scenes are shifting, but it seems kind of natural. It doesn't seem jarring. The story just flowed a lot better. And then this last one, where we sort of break the barrier break that fourth wall. The story of two characters stranded on a planet, and they find a book that is kind of telling them what's happening to them and what's going to happen to them and what decisions they're going to make. One character is completely invested in this book and says, all we have to do is follow this book and we'll be free. And the other one is very, very skeptical. Really, really well done. Really well told. I love that we kind of become part of the story itself by reading the book. So that was a real joy to dig into that one. A nice way to end it. So I guess there was really only one story in this, looking back on it, that I wasn't too keen on. But so really a nice intro into the Stack of Manara stuff that I got recently. I guess the one thing I missed talking about in this final issue, number 14 of the Post Brothers here, of this story arc, there's a real nice moment too where they're trapped. Ron and his girlfriend are trapped in their house, and he has nothing to do. They've been there for 3 days. So he says, I'm just going to sit around and continue to read your comic books and drink your booze. He's reading Warlock 5, which is pretty goddamn great. One of my favorites as well too. So yeah, there you go. I think that's going to be it for this week. Beautiful book. Thanks for giving us a look. Yeah, I think you had mentioned, Dan, that you had some of the Fellini stuff that he did. So that's the stuff I'm hoping to get into this week to see what that's like. I feel like that was a good kind of prep to hit some of those longer story arcs, which I'm curious to see what happens. I should give a shout out to let me see here, make sure that I get names correct. So quite a long time ago, Tim Tyler is one of those creators that I really enjoy. And Dollar Bin Comics, at Comics Dollar Bin, is what he goes by on Twitter. I won't say his real name because I don't know if he wants that shared. But Dollar Bin Comics was kind enough to find, he found a couple of issues of Devil Jack #1. So one is a color version and one is like a director's cut, but it's a black and white. And he sent those off to me, and those came actually a couple of weeks ago. I meant to mention them in last Sunday's video, but it completely slipped my mind. I haven't read these yet. They're sitting kind of on my gigantic to be read pile, but I do really like some Tim Tyler stuff. I've got one other issue from this Devil Jack series. I think it might be issue number 2. I don't know how many it went. We'll take a quick look inside. So shout out to Dollar Bin Comics for sending these along. Really, really appreciate it. Really great, because they're not stuff. It's Doom Theater from 1995. It's not stuff that I find. I've had it on my wish list on Lone Star for quite a while, and it's one of those books that just doesn't pop up. I do love seeing the color beside the black and white. This is one of those books that looks like it was colored with Sharpie, so it really gives it that kind of 90s feel, and it really kind of pops off the page there. I wouldn't say that this is peak Tim Tyler, but it still has a lot of his style in it. So I'm looking forward to digging into this. I got to find the other issue as well so I can sit and read them together. But there's a look at the color one. I'll quickly show you a bit of the black and white. And this is beautiful. You really get more of a sense of his line in this one. The coloring does really, while I enjoy the coloring, I find it does kind of take away from his art in this instant. One of those times where obviously it always does something to the original line art, masks a lot of things. But as we've seen in so many books that we've looked at over the years, it can really accentuate the art in a beautiful way. This is one of those occasions for me where I think it kind of takes away from his art, because I love seeing the black and white as opposed to the color, as much as I enjoy that coloring. So, but so there's a little taste of that. So that's on the to be read pile. Hopefully I can get to that at some point this week or in the next little bit. Hell yeah, Tim Tyler rules. My Tim collection is getting pretty big. Have you seen Pigs and Stub? Fuck no, I haven't. That is going immediately on the list. I will type it into another window as a matter of fact. Pigs and Stub, Tim Tyler. Let's see some images. Oh, there you go. Oh shit, yeah, no, I don't recognize that cover whatsoever. Don't recognize that at all. That'll be hitting a list for sure. Thank you for that, Dan. Oh man, Google that image now. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that looks great. They have a black box over some of the images here, though, that I'm finding. Even though I have my safe search off, it's still not giving me what I imagine is happening under that black box on the cover. There you go, mature readers. Yeah, sweet. Thanks, Dan. All right, everybody. Thanks very much for hanging out. It's good to see you all. And we'll talk to you next weekend. Right on. Later.